Okay, so Claude, this is a pre-Shavouoth shiur for you, and of course by proxy, although Melissa, I'm seeing you tonight. So it's really for you, Claude. Pre-Shavouoth shiur on this really cold, wintry, rainy Cape Town day, but Baruch Hashem, we have our fireplace here, and as you can see, I'm busy enjoying it to the best of my ability. They say that you cannot acquire Torah unless you struggle and you have bread and water and you sweat. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try a different way. In comfort, Bezrat Hashem, something will penetrate and I'll absorb something. So on Shavouoth, we read the book of Ruth, who I think probably the most famous convert in Judaism. Rabbi Akiva wasn't a convert, but he was the son of a convert, so he's probably next in line. But in fact, all of the Jews became converted at Mount Sinai when we got the Torah. So what is Shavouoth all about? But it is really mostly about Ruth, about the convert Ruth, who, because of what she did, she merited to have King David as a descendant. The royal line of Israel basically came from her, which is incredible when you think of it. Also, just to show you the impact of converts and Baalei Teshuvah. The most important parasha of the Torah is probably the one where we received the Torah at Mount Sinai, and that's named after Yitro. Yitro was the main priest of all the idols in the time of Pharaoh. And but he did Teshuvah, and he basically allied himself and converted to Judaism. And again, his daughter married Moshe Rabbeinu. So what are we being taught here? What are we being shown? So what we're being shown is that really and then of course the reason how that Ruth comes in the picture is because there was a man called Elimelech, and he was also from the tribe of Yehuda, and had kings. Had it been the period where kings would be appointed, it was during the period of the judges, so it wasn't time for kings yet. There was a prophecy which Yaakov had uttered, which basically prevented the appointment of kings, and that's why you had the tribes living kind of separately, and then you had judges who were basically the rulers. That time, by the way, it was about 400 years, was probably the most perfect example of a loose confederacy living according to divine moral values, with very little going wrong, other than whenever they went away from the Torah, whenever they gave in to idolatry, they became victims of their neighbors, their non-Jewish neighbors. But when they followed the judges and they followed the Torah, they lived very successful and peaceful lives, and there was no central leadership. I'm busy giving a shiur, Karen. So
I need to ask you an important question.
Okay, quickly.
Well, not in front of the whole shiur.
It's me and Claudia. Come and
you and Claudia.
Okay.
Remember you said you would come with me to the 12 apostles.
To the hotel.
Yeah, and you said you would study while I was at house.
Yeah.
Okay, does Tuesday suit you?
Yes.
I'll tell you which one. What time? Can I do it around 12?
Yeah. Okay, so why is Ruth so important, and why is the whole idea that around her so important? And what's the story with Elimelech? So Elimelech was basically the most, other than Boaz, who was his, I think Boaz was who eventually married Ruth. I think it was his cousin or his brother, I'm not sure. One of the two. But anyway, somehow related to him. But Boaz was the judge. He was basically the head of the Sanhedrin. But Elimelech should have been king. And so he was a very, very important family. But there was this famine in Israel, and he decided to leave for various reasons. I'm not going to go into them now, but they weren't the right reasons. and they went to Moab, the land of Moab. And because he left Israel, and because he basically closed his hand to the poor, that's what's used. That's what Malmo says. He closed his hands to the poor. In other words, he was a rich man, and there was famine, and people were coming to him, and he just didn't want to deal with that, and he didn't want to give. So he decided to run away, and he went to Moab. So he went to Moab, and there he basically died almost immediately. He within a he was old, so he wasn't correct, but basically he died pretty soon after he arrived there. He left his wife and the two sons. And the two sons, after he died, because obviously they would never have done it while he was alive, they married two non-Jewish women, two Moabites. So it was two sisters, it says, Ruth and Ophrah. So interesting, what happened is that Ruth's descendants were the King David and the kings of the tribe of Yehuda, and Ophrah's descendants were actually Goliath. Goliath was her descendant. So they ended up fighting each other, and but what it's showing is that Elimelech, who literally had an incredible lineage all the way back to Yehuda, and was meant to be the king of Israel, basically died with nothing and left his wife destitute, and his two sons married out, and that was the end wasn't good. And yet one of the sons married Ruth, and then when he died, his wife Naomi decided to go back to Israel because she heard the famine was over, and she could see that things were not working out for them in South Africa or New York or Paris, which is where we all are, and decided to go back to Israel. And Ruth basically had lived with her husband and with Naomi for many years. It was somewhere between 0 and 10 years, because they died after 10 years after the father died, and obviously had absorbed a lot of the customs of Israel, and she decided that she wanted to join the nation of Israel. And she suffered for that, not like me with my fireplace. She suffered. I mean, they were poor. She had to go and collect the peah, on the corners of the field, because they didn't have enough food, etc., etc. So what it shows that as far as Hashem is concerned, it doesn't matter what your family lineage is. If you do things that are incorrect, your life will end up in nothing. And with Ruth, who comes from Moab, I mean, the Moabites were descendants of Lot and his daughters. And remember, Lot and his daughters, the Moabites and the Ammonites, they came as a result of an incestuous relationship, which took place after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. So it wasn't a good start. And yet, despite that very shady beginning, you have the mother of the kings of Israel emerging, which shows that many of the tests that we are put through in life are there to test us, and most of the time, or many times, out of very dark tests and very dark times, very dark clouds, or very fierce fires emerge what's called Kedusha. So there we have it. We have one family, an illustrious family from the tribe of Yehuda, which basically ends up in nothing. And you have a forlorn family of Moabites, which basically spawns the eternal kings of Israel. So it just shows the value of Teshuvah, the value of clinging to the Torah with genuine intent, and with a readiness to go through hardships to do that. And I think that's an incredible lesson, because today many people wear the uniform, but it's not genuine, and they look down on converts today. The way Jews speak about converts and treat them I find absolutely disgusting. And by the way, the protecting the converts and standing up for the converts and loving converts is mentioned 38 times in the Torah. I think it's more than Shabbat even. So it just shows how important it is to Hashem that the people that are in weaker positions, like the converts or the orphans or the poor people, how important it is to him that the Jewish people stand up for them. So that's really what I wanted to talk about, is the fact that almost opposite to the way people think, some of the greatest people of the Jewish, some of the greatest of the Jewish people have emerged from the darkest places. Shavouoth Tov and Chag Sameach.